Our first story, an e-health system that will store patients' records in an electronic database is being rolled out in public health facilities across the country after a successful pilot in over 20 hospitals in the central region. The Ministry of Health says once completed, patients' records could be accessed in any of the public health facilities they visit. It replaces the current system where large halls are required to hold patient folders, resulting in serious challenges with management of the records. Touting the project as a fulfillment of a manifesto promised by the New Patriotic Party, Health Minister Dr. Kweku Agyeman-Manu noted the Akufo-Addo-led government is committed to providing quality health care in the country. Nancy Emefa-Dradozi has more.
As important as record keeping is within the healthcare system, patient records are not efficiently managed. Defacing, poor labeling and improper filing has been the lots of folders bearing the records of patients. Patients, as a result, often have to struggle to obtain their records to help their doctors ascertain their medical history to aid effective diagnosis. Patients, in some instances, are made to pay illegal fees just for their folders to be pulled out. Health Minister Kweku Agyeman-Manu, however, explains all that is going to change.
A key design feature of the system provides an easy-to-use interface for doctors and other health workers to undertake their time-honored clinical and other patient management calls, like history taking, performing medical examination, assessing information, and requesting investigations if needed, then making diagnosis and deciding on treatment plans. The beauty of it is that all these pieces of information are stored electronically and can be accessed and shared through the electronic health records. Indeed, the National e-Health Project, at the most basic level, will enable doctors to assess pathology results, diagnostic imaging results, discharge summaries, and current medications and adverse events on each patient from electronic health records.
Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Anthony Ntiasari, also noted that his outfit is on course to provide all the necessary tools for the implementation of the system.
I would like to mention a few things that we are doing. The ministry has also procured digital X-rays and automated laboratory analyzers, which has been distributed throughout the country. So anybody can take an X-ray somewhere and it will be read and interpreted by radiologists at a faraway place. A similar approach has also been used in early infant diagnosis for HIV/AIDS. For example, we are using what we call DBS, the dry blood samples, where laboratory tests are taken for HIV mothers, and they are sent to the laboratories, and the results sent to the midwife at any place by using a WhatsApp or a text message.
The Ghana Health Service other program called for the establishment of a Center for Disease Control for the sub-region.
Now, the electronic record-keeping system, though has just been launched, has been operational in some of the country's public health facilities. Joy News' Matilda Mamega has been to the La General Hospital here in Accra and reports the system is making a huge difference, facilitating healthcare delivery, so much so that patients and pharmacists no longer have to contend with trying to decipher the coded language doctors write their prescriptions.
It is a daily struggle for record-keeping personnel going through thousands of folders belonging to patients here at the La General Hospital. All folders are kept in a 40-feet container demarcated with wooden shelves. It is a stuffy, dark room with very little ventilation, and folders kept on the shelves are almost falling off, with others lying on the bare floor. Cynthia is one of those responsible for the folders here.
We have the folders coded by numbers. We have each year and the numbers that they go according to. So we file them into the columns. We have 10 columns. So I know this is the ID card of the patient. So it's year 15. Okay. I know it's around this area. Okay. So as soon as I pick this is the hospital code, and this is the patient's unique number. Okay. And this is the year. Back.
How long does it take you to locate a folder?
Like 5 to 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Some of the folders are out of the shelf, some are scattered.
Those that are in the shelves belongs to patients, but the ones on the floor are dead folders. The patients are already dead, so we keep them on the floor.
Do you burn them? How do you discard them?
No, they are being taken to the archives.
Okay.
But we have to wait for a while for the patient to come, the relatives to come back for the documents, like the death set for the patient. Yes.
And then This accounts for the long hours patients have to wait before they are attended to by the doctor. One of the primary complaints of those who patronize health facilities.
Concerning the long queue and other things, because the stress in it, getting your folder stuff, you'll be in a long queue.
Okay, one major concern is about the long queues one has to go through before getting the folder, and sometimes you find your folders missing.
We have to wait for 30 minutes or more in order to get our folders. You don't really have a choice except to wait for your turn before seeing a doctor.
The La General Hospital, however, practices both the manual and electronic records keeping system, and Dr. Presla Mensah says the benefits have been enormous.
I would say right now that I use the computer, the software, it's faster for me. I think I prefer to document my history onto the computer now because it is faster for me. And I think for the patients, we have issues where maybe the folders is missing or misfiling of the folders. So when they come with their card, they have to search and search and search and search before their folders are gotten. And it also reduces, apart from, for example, the prescriptions, we send it just from here. Once you've written your prescription on the system, you send it to the pharmacy. You don't need to start writing on the prescription of, yes, maybe you've written cefuroxime, and then the pharmacist thinks you've written cefotaxime. So there could be a mix-up. But with the computer, it's very much clear whatever you've written. So that's another advantage, yeah.
The electronic record-keeping system is currently operational at the outpatients departments, but the hospital intends to roll it out to the other departments. Atindana Insubila is the hospital administrator.
At the inpatient level, because we haven't deployed the system there, then we must necessarily use folders when it comes to inpatient admissions. But at the OPD level, we have done away with the folders. So if you come at the outpatient level, you don't need a folder to be attended to by any of our medical staff.
The Ghana Health Service is seeking, among other things, to automate the records keeping in all public health facilities, where confidential information about a patient will be kept in a more secured database. For Joy News, Matilda Pumaga, Accra.
Now, virtually the whole of the northern region capital, Tamale, is still without electricity following a fire Monday night at the Ghana Grid Company facility there, which resulted in extensive destruction to power supply equipment. The Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO, which is in charge of supplying power to the Brahafo, Northern, Upper East and Upper West regions, says it is working on temporary measures to restore some supply to the areas as it tackles the main problem. Addressing a news conference Tuesday, Communications Manager of NEDCO, Maxwell Kotoka, explained only some key installations in the city will have power as engineers work on a permanent solution.
They are at this point unable to serve the whole of Tamale, especially at the domestic consumption point. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not entirely a gloomy picture, though. Management has outlined a number of measures in the short and medium to long term to address the situation and to restore service as soon as is possible. Management has decided to loop some feeders that are close to the currently running ones, that is the TTH, the Ghana Water Company Limited, and the airport. This may not be comprehensive, so not all customers can expect to be covered under this arrangement. If it becomes necessary and we find it practicable, we may have to resort to some limited load management. If that will happen, we will not hesitate to share with you the structure and schedule that will guide it.
Maxwell Kotsuga added the cause of the fire will be investigated and also appealed to residents to cooperate.
The medium to long-term measure obviously is to fully replace the burnt equipment and restore the situation as it was prior to the incident. Temporary replacement equipment have been sought and are on their way to Tamale. However, we would have to investigate the incident thoroughly before installing the replacement equipment, lest we have a recurrence on hand. Consequently, this may take some time. We will want to urge restraint and a careful management of expectations. We assure the general public of fairness and utmost good faith. We plead with the public to understand us and to cooperate with us in these difficult times.
You're watching Joy News Prime, where tonight we're taking a stand against the abuse of Ghanaian children as members of the Ghanaians Against Child Abuse. That's why we're all in these T-shirts. We'll be telling you more about it later in the bulletin. Right now, though, we're taking a break, but still to come, Minority in Parliament demands withdrawal of budget of 2018 budget over what it describes as the Finance Minister's failure to seek approval for some revision to 2017 figures earlier in the year. The minority in Parliament says the lives of Ghanaians have deteriorated over the last 10 months since the NPP took over power. This, they say, is as a result of the mismanagement of the economy by the new administration, a claim government is disputing. The claims and counterclaims characterize the start of debate on the 2018 budget in Parliament on Tuesday. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has more.
Opening the debate, Planning Minister Professor Georgian Baffour said the economy has been put on a path back to work, away from the negative growth that characterized the economy under the NDC. But Cape Coast Central MP Kweku Reketegan says Ghana is a more difficult place today than last year. NDC MP for Ho Central Benjamin Kpodo says the government is making it more difficult for the private sector to thrive.
The issue of borrowing has to do with confidence in the economy. When you have proper arrangements for repayment of debt that you are borrowing, then you will be able to get good rates in the market. Here we are. We have abandoned all the good policies that the previous administration instituted to generate that confidence in the economy. That is why we are having high interest rates to borrow money from lenders.
Deputy Information Minister Kujapon Nkrumah said the NPP government is doing well with revenue generation, which will transform the economy.
The Speaker, the Chair of the committee earlier spoke about this government has been conscious in reducing the rate at which we accumulate debt. Because as we spoke about during our days of opposition, reckless borrowing must be avoided. But while we are doing all of this, Mr. Speaker, the GDP has also been rising. From where we took up about 3.7, we projected 6.3, and we are seeking to end at 7.9. We have also reprofiled our debt, and as a result, tax as a percentage of what would have been used to pay interest this year has dropped from 45% as initially predicted to 43.9. Now we are hoping to end the year around 41%. Mr. Speaker, it is a combination of these things that have brought our debt to GDP ratio to 68% thereabouts, and we are hopeful that we'll meet our year-end target of about 70.9%. Are these not good things for Ghana? They are good. And instead of pretending they haven't happened, we should encourage the finance minister and keep on that path.
NPP MP for Efidiasi Asokore, Dr. Nana Ayuefriye, told the House the NDC should be blamed for any challenges with the economy currently. From Parliament House in Accra, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo reporting.
Well, the minority in Parliament is demanding the withdrawal of the 2018 budget statement delivered to the House last week over what it describes as the Finance Minister's failure to seek parliamentary approval for the revision of 2017 revenue targets earlier in the year. The minority MPs accused the Finance Minister of going ahead to include the revised figures in the 2018 budget, even though they had not been approved by Parliament. Minority spokesperson on Finance, Cassiel Ato-Forson, says the document is illegal and a breach of the Public Financial Management Act. He says he and his colleagues will insist a new document is laid.
If you look at the Public Financial Management Act, Section 28, Clause 1, 2, and then D, it talks about the minister coming to Parliament to revise the budget through the media review. The laws of Parliament, obviously, our rules, the standing order is very clear. You will notice that in Order 143, and then Order 143, also the Constitution Article 179, 8 and 11 is clear that if you want to come to revise a budget, you will have to come in a form of a motion, not a statement. Unfortunately, the minister responsible for finance appeared before this House in a form of information, a statement. So on that basis, he cannot revise the 2017 budget. From what we have seen, he has revised the budget through a statement, and that cannot be allowed to stand. Okay. That is the basis.
But that was then, and this is 2018 budget that has been delivered.
The 2018 budget as laid include the estimate for 2017. On that basis, this budget statement must be withdrawn, and a new one must be laid.
It doesn't look like they are going to do that.
They have to, because we hold them to it before the estimate. Until we get approval, that must be done.
Okay.
Yes, that must be done, and the Hansard support it. The Speaker ruled on that. That was a statement. The question is, can that be done? It's unconstitutional, it's unlawful, it frowns on the PFM law. Clearly, it cannot be allowed to stand. And I said it, and you remember, during that time I cautioned that we should be careful not to leave a precedent that will come and haunt all of us. This is what has happened. So sometimes they have to understand some of the things that we are saying, not necessarily to brush it aside as if we are doing politics. We mean well for Ghana, and we want to make sure that we don't revise our laws unlawfully in a way that is going to haunt all of us.
But Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng has rubbished the claim, saying the demand is baseless.
I still don't think he meant it, because it could not have been a serious point. The fact is this, that when government comes to Parliament and presents a budget, an appropriation is passed. Appropriation is a set of ceilings that you are not allowed to spend beyond these ceilings. If for any reason you are able to get monies you did not anticipate and you want to exceed the ceiling, you must come back to Parliament with a supplementary budget which has to be approved by Parliament through the usual motions. If you come to Parliament to say that I am within the ceilings, and so I have not violated the Appropriation Act, however, I was unable to realize all the revenues I anticipated, and therefore I am revising expenditures downwards. You have broken no law, and therefore you are not required to come to Parliament for approval.
But with the midterm budget review statement, I recall there were variations in projections when it comes to growth, projections when it comes to revenue inflow general, even beyond the overall debt ceiling. If those figures are changing, shouldn't Parliament have been given the opportunity to approve those figures before they would form the basis for the 2018 budget still?
As for projections, if you tell Parliament that by the close of the year, I would have grown the economy by, say, 6.5%, and you come to Parliament at the close of the year to say that, thankfully, we managed to grow beyond 6.5. We got, say, 7%. You are suggesting that we should have sought the approval of Parliament? Parliament does not impose ceilings on your targets, on your performance. What Parliament imposes ceilings on are your expenditures. And I am saying that when we came mid-year, we did not exceed any expenditure limit. And you are at liberty to ask anybody that feels concerned whether there was a particular appropriation that we exceeded. To that extent, we are on the side of the law. But in respect of basing the budget for 2018 on some figures, we did not base them on our projections at the beginning of the year. We even did not base them on our projections in the mid-year review. We based them on figures that we have, the latest figures we have.
In another development, the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana says it is disappointed government did not make provision Well, the building of the capacity of seed producers in the 2018 budget presented to Parliament last Wednesday. According to the Farmer Group, the government flagship program, Planting for Food and Jobs, took off without local seed supply, hence the need to import. PIFAG Programs Officer Charles Nyaba explains government should have made provision in the 2018 budget to build the capacity of local seed producers.
Specific. We are particularly concerned about the silence of the budget on quantity of inputs, especially fertilizer and seed, in the 2018, of which we are targeting 500,000 farmers. So we are targeting to increase farmers' participation in the planting for food and jobs from 200 target in 2017 to 500,000 in 2018. Yet, in the budget, there is no specific allocation for seed and fertilizer. So we think that for the 2018 program to succeed, the negotiation for purchase of fertilizer or for supply of fertilizer and seeds should start early enough so that farmers will be comfortable with that. Now, in 2017, there were also problems with the smuggling of the fertilizer to our neighboring country. So we were expecting that in 2018 budget, there should be provision to ensure monitoring of this smuggling so that it doesn't go across the borders. Because when we spoke to the security people during our monitoring program, they said they were not having logistics to monitor the movement of the fertilizer. So we were expecting to see this in the budget, which was also missing. We are also disappointed in government failure to create the necessary conditions to build the capacity of local seed producers to enable them produce to meet the local market rather than relying on imports. All the seeds that we used last year, over 80% was imported. And then most of these seeds were no good. So we think that it's about time for us to empower our local seed growers to be able to grow and then supply to the domestic farmers.
The group is also worried that under the Akufo-Addo Program for Economic Transformation, APET, a 400 million cedi fund is to be set up to de-risk the sector. But because details on how this fund will be used is not stated, it could provide an avenue for some dishonest people to dupe the state.
The invasion of the 4 armyworms in the last planting season caused havoc to major farms in the country, affecting about 137,479 hectares. Out of this, only 123,000 hectares were able to be recovered. This means that a total of 14,247 hectares of farms were affected and destroyed, of which thousands of farmers were affected. Under the Akufo-Addo Program for Economic Transformation, 400 million fund is to be set aside for risk management. We just hope that this fund, there will be money available so that it will cater for farmers who will be affected by this. In addition, the budget is silent on expenditure allocation for next year's planting season, vis-a-vis building a strategic stock of pest control mechanism, as well as intensify farmer education and increase monitoring and surveillance on armyworm infestation. Equipping Ghanaian researchers with logistics to face future outbreak was also left out in the budget. So we expect clarity on the multiplicity of initiatives adopted by government for the agriculture sector. This brings confusion and breeds duplication, resulting in ineffectiveness, and we expect government to come clear on them. For example, 2017 agriculture initiative mentioned on the other program still come under the new 2018 Akufo-Addo Program for Economic Transformation Initiative. The same can be said about the extensive support to farmers and the National Builders Corps.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break where tonight we're taking a stand against child abuse as depicted by our t-shirts and that of my colleagues. We're taking a stand against the abuse of Ghanaian children as members of the coalition of Ghanaians Against the Abuse of Ghanaian children. Still to come in the bulletin, though, President Akufo-Addo has been speaking of his conviction that Africans shall work to take Africa where it deserves to be, as he addresses the Royal Africa Society in the UK.
We do want to, and we shall work to take Africa to where it deserves to be, as a prosperous and dynamic member of the world community.
Right, so it's time for business, and Emmanuel Abadjiri-Afe is here, and as I indicated, he's also wearing the T-shirt, the GACA T-shirt. It's Ghanaians Against Child Abuse. So on the front of the T-shirt, you're going to see Ghanaians Against Child Abuse, protect our children. But on the back of the T-shirt, if you can turn for me to see, you're modeling a bit. It's a Canada UNICEF initiative. So right on the back of it, it says, let us prevent corporal punishment, gender inequality, sexual abuse, child trafficking, verbal abuse, and child marriage as well. Physical abuse, institutionalization of child labor, and all of that. And we're taking a stand for it. That's why we're wearing the T-shirt. But right now, though, you're bringing us business. Sure, so what's coming up in business?
Well, in business, the Institute of Statistical, Social, and Economic Research is the latest institution to actually criticize the budget, the achievement of the revenue targets in the budget.
But apparently the World Bank also has a different view about that.
Well, the World Bank is saying, saying that it is achievable and that we just have to put our axis right and then definitely get what we want.
You take it away, man.
Thank you very much, and thanks for joining me on business. The Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, is casting doubts over government's revenue targets in the 2018 budget. It follows a similar warning by accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. According to ISE, government may fail to achieve its economic targets for 2018 unless it improves revenue performance and ensures fiscal discipline. Head of Economic Division, Dr. Charles Aka, was speaking at the ISE post-budget review analysis in Accra.
The government is signaled by the 2018 budget projections is good and in the right direction. The realization of the broad fiscal objectives will, however, depend on two complementary factors. First, the revenue performance must be good and targets met. Should revenue targets be missed, the government may again be forced to sacrifice capital spending and consequently medium-term growth. Second, it is important that government remains disciplined with respect to its spending. Typically, we note that the immediate post-election year is usually one that successive governments have done well fiscally. It is therefore important that the government continues to keep its discipline from a spending point so that the macroeconomic gains made in 2017 can be further consolidated.
Now, government's quest to conclude the IMF program possibly by April 2019 could face further challenges. That's the conclusion one may draw after government set a budget deficit higher than what the IMF program had projected. However, country director of the World Bank, Henry Kerali, does not think Ghana's program is really under threat. He explains to Joy Business how government can get around the situation.
We believe that it's in the right direction. Obviously, it's going to take time. On the issue of revenues, it is the responsibility of Ghanaians to pay their taxes, and this is what the Minister of Finance made. It's also the responsibility of companies, whether they are nationals or internationals, to also pay their taxes to the exchequer. So it is the responsibility of the nation as a whole. And there's responsibility on the part of individuals to save more. So in terms of revenue, it is going to take time, but I believe the framework is there to be able to boost this. But on the broader picture of growth, we see growth this year 6 to 7%. Next year 7 to 8%. Subject, of course, as always, to no further shocks of any kind. So the growth trajectory is positive. The outlook overall is positive. This year, 2017, we believe will be, as I say, 6 to 7% compared to 3.5% in 2016.
You talked about the program being, or policies that they've outlined being in line with the IMF program and all the rest, and the program is forecasting a budget deficit of 3.8 for this next year. Government is looking at 4.5. Obviously, there are some serious implications there for the fund program.
There are implications, but there are always ways to make adjustments. If your revenues are down, you can always seek to make adjustments to your expenditures in order to maintain a balance. I will leave the discussion between what the final outcome target should be, whether it's 3.8% deficit or 4.5% deficit at the end of 2018. That's a discussion between the IMF and the government. But as far as the World Bank is concerned, we focus more on the growth, and the growth looks positive. We also focus on the debt levels. We are supporting government with its management of the debt stock. We've seen action to reduce the debt in the, to reprofile, I should say, the debt in the energy sector. All of these are actions that we support.
In other stories, the Chamber of Mines has launched a local content online portal designed to showcase the opportunities available to local businesses within the mining industry. Currently, the country's mining laws require that only 19 products had to be acquired locally. Unfortunately, some of these items are not readily available for local manufacturers, leaving mining options, with no mining companies with no option than to import. The online portal is expected to link mining companies with sources of products to be purchased. Here's more in this report.
Online portal is part of efforts to boost local participation in the mining sector. The Chamber of Mines says one of the main reasons for a deficit in local content participation in the extractive industry is the non-availability of avenues to link manufacturers to dealers of locally produced equipment. Suleiman Ikone is Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Mines. He tells Joy Business the online portal will give local manufacturers the chance to explore various opportunities available in the mining value chain.
But the whole idea is to aggregate the demand for industry and showcase and say, this is it. Of the demand for industry, this is what is produced locally or manufactured locally, and this is what the demand is. So the difference naturally becomes the opportunity.
In 2015, the mining industry achieved about 73% of its planned local purchases per the country's local content regulations. President of the Chamber of Mines, Kwame Adukufo, is hopeful the local content online portal will help improve this situation. He shared with Joy Business what the portal is all about.
And what it's going to do is to provide visibility into the mining value chain. You often hear of us being referred to as an enclave industry. People don't know what we do. They don't know how to participate in mining. What this does is to provide information of the opportunities in mining and to link you to the chamber, which then links you on to the operators. So at any given time, you know how much of what commodity you can supply, provided you have met the right specifications.
The local content online portal was launched in line with the Local Content Day.
Now, farmers are warning repayment of inputs supplied under the Planting for Food and Jobs program may be negatively affected if the Agric Minister's decision to accept only cash is not reviewed. Government earlier this year supplied inputs to the farmers who were expected to repay 50% of the cost either in cash or with their produce at the end of the farming season. But a letter from the Minister's office to various MMDAs is now directing for acceptance of only cash. Programs Coordinator of the Peasant Farmers Association, Charles Nyaba, says the move amounts to breach of contract.
Agreement was that government was subsidizing input 50%. The other 50%, farmers were to make a down payment of 25%. And when they produce, they pay the other 25% either in kind or in cash. So most farmers actually went into production with the hope that they can pay in kind because access to market has always been a problem. We are surprised to hear a directive from the minister to all district and regional directors that government is no more accepting in-kind payment. And we are thinking that that is unfair to farmers because agreement is an agreement. And if you enter an agreement with a second party and you even need to change or to alter that agreement, you need to discuss with that party to agree. But for you to ignore the views of farmers and just issue this directive, we think that government have not been fair to farmers.
Is this going to affect the confidence of the program you have with the government?
Yes, I think already some farmers have started calling and they are lamenting that that's how governments always do and program fails. They are thinking that government doesn't want the program to succeed because one major reason or one major aim of the program was to address the issue of access to credit, the issue of market access. So the market access component was for government to receive these products in kind. Now that government is reneging from that position, we are thinking that it's likely to reduce the confidence level that farmers have in the program.
And that's all we have for you by way of business. Thank you very much for watching. Until we come your way with more business stories, the position is let's protect our children against child abuse. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good evening.
Watching Joy News Prime, still to come in the bulletin. In international news, President Robert Mugabe has resigned as the leader of Zimbabwe. It ends a reign of 37 years. We'll be live in Zimbabwe to find out what the mood is like in that country. But right now, petitioners seeking the creation of a new region out of the Western region Tuesday argued before the Commission of Inquiry set up to examine their request. They told the committee the region is far too big to remain as a unit. President Akufo-Addo in June this year referred 6 petitions to the Council of State for advice. The Council, after going through the petitions, advised that there was the need for the creation, leading the President to put in place a 9-member commission to engage the petitioners. Chiefs from 7 traditional areas in the Western region, who are the petitioners, told the commission carving out a new region will ensure rapid development. There is more in this report by Joseph Akable.
Ghana at independence had 5 regions: Ashanti, Eastern, Western, Northern and Volta regions. In 1959, the Ashanti region was split into Bunahafo and Ashanti region. The Western and Upper regions suffered same, making way for a Central, Upper West and Upper East regions. A similar split of the Northern regions in 1960 separated the Upper regions into West and East. The Commission of Inquiry, chaired by Justice Stephen Brobe, is to hear 6 petitions, 2 each from the Bunahafo region and Northern regions, with the remaining from the Volta and Western regions. Justice Brobe announced public hearings in the regions will be organized after the commission engages the petitioners.
To make recommendations to the President based on his findings on the creation and alteration of regions. And C, lastly, to specify the issues to be determined by referendum and the places where the referendum should be held, where it makes recommendations for the creation and alteration of regions. Quotation ends. The purpose of today's meeting is to afford the Commission the opportunity to hear at first hand from persons who have submitted petitions for the creation of regions.
The ongoing process is being facilitated by the Ministry of Regional Reorganization. The Minister, Dan Butche, told pressmen funds are available for the entire process.
The funds are available. It's a major commitment that government has made. The whole ministry has been created to undertake to oversee the process. So the funds are available. Like any government endeavor, or anything of national interest, there should be funds to cater for it. So the major funds, as I explained last week, will be the electoral process. Yeah, that would be about the major thing. Other than that, this is what they are doing today, and maybe the setting they are having there when they move to their regions, this transportation that we are talking of, is accommodation where the commissioners will sleep. I don't think that's what we are all talking about. We are worried about.
Western Regional Minister Dr. Kweku Efriye is confident a split of his region will not affect unity in the area, as those in the south are in support of the move.
They support. You see, it depends upon how you look at about this. The best analogy, and it was given by a chief, they support the creation of the Western or the Southern chiefs. A chief from Nzema area, which is in the south, he said, like, this separation, it's like when you are sending your somebody comes to marry your daughter. You know that your daughter is of age and must be married. You don't want your daughter to be a spinster forever. But certainly, the day that your daughter is packing bag and baggage and going to join the husband, you feel a bit touched. Is that not so? Another analogy is that you know that when you are sending your son to the university, you know that the university is good for your son, but when he leaves the house that day, even though you know he's going to acquire skills and knowledge, you still feel a bit, emotional about it. So that is how, as for the Western region, we are one. We have a lingua franca, and our division is just administrative.
Despite holding an in-camera engagement with the Western regional petitioners, Joy News is learning the argument hinges on the size of the region, large population size, and better supervision of districts. These, they insist, will ensure rapid development.
This is Joy News Prime.
President Akufo-Addo is confident that Africans shall work to take Africa to where it deserves to be as a prosperous and dynamic member of the world community, stressing the need for all to move the continent beyond aid. At an event organized by the Royal Africa Society, Facebook, and the Ghana 60 Years On Committee on the theme Africa Beyond Aid in the UK Tuesday, President Akufo-Addo noted that Africa no longer wants to be the default place to go to find the footage to illustrate farming stories.
A new paradigm of leadership is called for. Leaders who are committed to governing their peoples according to the rule of law, respect for individual liberties and human rights, and the principles of democratic accountability. Leaders who are looking past commodities to position their countries in the global marketplace. Leaders who are determined to free their peoples from a mindset of dependence, aid, charity, and handouts. Leaders who are bent on mobilizing Africa's own immeasurable resources to resolve Africa's problems. Leaders who recognize the connectedness of their peoples and economies to those of their neighbors. This new generation of African leaders should help bring prosperity and dignity to our continent and its long-suffering peoples. We do want to, and we shall work to take Africa to where it deserves to be, as a prosperous and dynamic member of the world community. We need to, and we shall move Africa beyond aid.
Describing Africa as a rich continent, currently with the world's second fastest economic growth rates and in possession of nearly 30% of the Earth's remaining mineral resources, the President bemoaned the fact that the mass of Africans remain poor.
Even if the developed world had the means today, and were indeed minded to do so, it could not provide the aid that would keep Africa a sustainable part of the world. We do not want to remain the beggars of the world. We do not want to be dependent on charity. And Africa beyond aid means that we have to do everything whatsoever we can to strengthen our continental body, the African Union. Research has shown that countries or group of countries with the largest share of world trade are located within regions with the largest share of intra-regional trade. Trade between African regions remains low compared to other parts of the world. In 2000, intra-regional trade accounted for 10% of Africa's total trade and increased marginally to 11% in 2015. Trading amongst members of the European Union, for example, amounted to 70% in 2015. I believe it is extremely important for the welfare of the 1.2 billion people of the continent that we, the leaders, demonstrate strong political will to make the AU an economic and political success, and to make the project of integration real. With Africa's population set to reach some 2 billion people in 20 years' time, an African common market presents immense opportunities to bring prosperity to our continent with hard work, enterprise, innovation, and creativity. It is evident that the time for African integration should be now. Hence the importance of the success of the Continental Free Trade Area. A working common continental market has to be a very fundamental objective of all peoples and governments on the continent. Peace and stability on the continent are essential to the viability of the market. And we have to work to establish peace all over our great continent. A Pax Africana that has turned its back on terrorism, conflict, and instability.
The Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Elizabeth Afolekwe, says the fight against illegal fishing is facing challenges as some fishermen brazenly continue to engage in illicit practice. Light fishing, which is the unsafe use of light and chemicals to harvest fish, is a common practice among fishermen. Experts blame such unsafe practices for the depletion of fish stock. But the minister expressed worry over the difficulty in ending illegal fishing, even though the ban is backed by law. Elizabeth Afolekwe says the ministry will stop at nothing to sanitize the fisheries industry in Ghana. She was speaking at the Durban to commemorate World Fisheries Day at Keta in the Volta region.
We inaugurated the pilot Fisheries World Volunteers. We are going to inaugurate more Fisheries World Volunteers because we need a lot more hands to join in the fight against illegal fishing. We have had several challenges in our fight against illegal fishing. Some of the challenges have been with the behavior of some fishermen who are adamant and would want to continue the illegal fishing methods. I want to re-echo to all fishermen in Ghana that there is a law against illegal fishing.
Ghana Energy Advisor Mark Newton noted excessive fishing by both local and foreign fishing vessels in Ghana's waters could pose serious challenges for the country.
There are methods that have actually endangered the livelihoods of those who use the methods, specifically the use of chemicals and high-intensity light in fishing, and the collection of frozen juvenile fish at sea from trawlers. These are harmful. They degrade the very resources that fishermen depend on for their livelihoods. And if we don't put an end to these acts, the environmental, human, and economic consequences will devastate the fishing industry in the near future.
Some recalcitrant traders in Kumasi are continuing to resist efforts by city authorities to evict them from the congested central business district. Despite the many efforts to remove them, many of the traders still occupy streets, pavements and other unauthorized places, citing inadequate space in the designated markets. They claim all designated market spaces at Abinchi and the race course are full. Love News checks, however, reveal many of the traders have required sheds and open spaces at Abinchi market, but have abandoned them to sell on the streets. Erastus Cesario Donko reports.
I heard people scream.
Alex.
Named after late Asante Hema Efiakobi Sewampim, the market center, also known as Abinchi, has facilities and amenities suitable for business, far more than race course and other markets. A number of transport unions have set up terminals there, but the full potential of the facility is yet to be utilized. Now these are empty tables ready to be filled, but you ask yourself whether they have owners. Yes, they've been paid for 200 Ghana cedis back in 2011, but their owners are occupying spaces at the central business district, congesting the city center. And that is what authorities are trying to do, to decongest, bring them back to occupy the tables that they themselves have acquired but have abandoned. Mr. Sedofori is the manager of Abinchi market.
When you come to operate, you pay 50 pesos, yeah. But because they are not coming, once you see the empty table, can you go to the empty table and take money? No. So we are losing seriously here. And as you can see, because of that, the place is also deteriorating. Because we don't get the money to make renovation exercises here. We have security men we have sweepers and others. Because of the lack of finance, we don't have money to pay them. So the place is deteriorating. Yes.
So when you heard that the traders were saying that the spaces here have been already sold and so they do not have spaces here, that is why they won't move to Abinchi, how did you feel?
They are peddling lies, because KMA have made an announcement to them day and day night, to them that they should come here. The tables are here for them. So I don't see why they should be in town and then peddling lies that the place is already full. No.
Mrs. Grace Ejedako is head of the dry fish sellers at the market. She's the only one out of the lot who relocated to Abinchi Market since she acquired the shed in 2012.
And you rescue some quiet, they make us a who and say, I want to be say, and idea to be more for good. A tampra.
It was needless relocating them to race course. The money spent there should have been used to improve conditions here. The place is just a temporary space for those there. Most of the traders at the race course have spaces here. We were all there, and when the space was taken, it brought us here.
It will need strict enforcement of bylaws to get traders to utilize facilities provided by city authorities at the high cost, while traders continue to complain about space at satellite markets. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
The death toll in the Monday night Agogo road accident has increased to 7. 6 people died on the spot, while 8 others were critically injured when a cargo truck carrying yam collided head-on with a 4-passenger van at Ekutuase. One of the injured victims receiving treatment at the Presbyterian Hospital at Agogo died Tuesday morning. Lava Firm's Kwesi Deba reports.
I heard people scream.
Alex Amayao looks at the pictures of the wreckage of Monday's night's accident on this cell phone. He can't believe he's still alive as he sat just beside the driver at the front seat.
They seen properly, but what I saw was I was busy with my phone when we were coming, so we got to a point that we have to climb a mountain, and one car was descending, a truck loaded with yam was coming. So when I realized the driver, our driver wanted to step to the other side, and so the path of the driver went to hit the oncoming vehicle. So I was in the front, so then like I opened the door and they got out. And so I ran to the far end and wanting help from people, but no vehicle was or driver was prepared to bring us. So I was standing, and later we were fortunate to get somebody to bring us. But when I got back to where our truck was, I couldn't believe that I was in that very truck, because the state at which the truck was in was very terrible.
Evelyn Jumo was initially counted among the dead. She is responding to treatment. Her father, Eric Kakari, recounts how he received news of his daughter's misfortune.
I heard
of the news and I quickly rushed to the hospital. My daughter is not dead, she's alive. 5 of the injured victims are at the emergency unit, while the other 2 are in the intensive care. Hospital authorities say the 2 will undergo X-ray examination to ascertain the injury. The deceased include 2 level 200 students of the Agogo Presbyterian College of Education and a level 300 physician assistant student of the Presbyterian University College of Ghana. Authorities of Presbyterian University College and Agogo Presbyterian College of Education have officially informed the bereaved families. Meanwhile, police are yet to make public statement on the cause of the accident, though eyewitnesses attribute it to wrongful overtaking. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.